Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Littlejohn. I'm a certified genetic counselor. My educational background is that I received my Bachelor's of Science from the University of Georgia in Athens, and then a Master's of Genetic Counseling from the University of North Carolina in Greensboro. After that time, I came to Texas to work at the Children's Hospital of San Antonio with some great coworkers, Dr. Elizabeth Roeder and Dr. Scott McLean, and my other colleague, Kimberly Nugent.
How do I find a clinical trial for my child's genetic condition?
So that is a great question. And first, I want to say thank you to anyone who is even considering participating in a clinical trial. You've really thought about this thoroughly, the pros and cons related to participation in clinical trials, and you also hopefully realize that you're either potentially getting a benefit to your child by participation, or you're advancing the science so that other children may benefit from your child's participation. With that being said, I think the two main ways to find a clinical trial for your child's genetic condition is by one, going to clinicaltrials.gov, or two, participating or being involved in a support group. So I'll start by explaining number one. So clinicaltrials.gov is a great resource. You can search for your child's genetic condition on that page. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you look for clinical trials that are recruiting or planning to recruit in the future. If you search by your child's genetic condition and there are a few search options that come up, you want to make sure to narrow down your results by clicking those two filters. And then you want to also make sure that if you click on a clinical trial that your child meets the inclusion criteria and or exclusion criteria. And at the bottom of the page of those sites, or that particular trial, would have the contact person. So they usually have the phone number, the name, and the email of the contact person. And so you can email or call them, and they will typically answer and get right back to you. The second way to find a clinical trial is to participate in support groups. There are many support groups who are, one of their main goals is to provide research opportunities for their members. And so they'll often send you emails about what clinical trial is coming up, if your child could be a potential participant, and they'll definitely give you information about it, who's doing the study, and the contact information. So I think that's the second way to find a clinical trial.
Could you explain what inclusion and exclusion criteria are for those families who that might be a new word for them?
Sure. So inclusion criteria is essentially what you have to have, or as in the genetic condition, or the type of results, or a specific age range that you have to meet to qualify to participate. So an example is you're looking up a clinical trial. At the very top, they'll say what ages can participate in this study. And then it'll say you have to have XYZ genetic testing results, or have certain clinical findings for that genetic condition to participate in that study. Exclusion criteria can include many things. It basically means that if you have certain items on their list, essentially, you would not qualify for their study, meaning you could not participate in it. So one of those things may say that you can't be on certain medications if you want to participate in the study, or you can't be part of other research studies to participate in their study. It's going to say very specifically on the, at least clinicaltrials.gov website, what you need to have to participate and what would exclude you from participating.
Great, thank you. I think that's really clear. And the other question that popped in my mind was, If a family is unsure whether their child qualifies or doesn't qualify, what is your recommendation?
So if you're not sure if you would qualify for the study or not qualify for the study, I would email the contact for the study and let them know what's going on, and that you've read it, you don't quite understand if your child can be included or not, and they'll ask you specific follow-up information that would clarify that. You can also reach out to a medical professional, genetic counselor, geneticist. You can reach out to your neurologist, other specialists, other healthcare providers, and they can go through that site with you to see if you could be a potential participant. And even then, even medical providers have to contact the study coordinators too. So we're always reaching out to them to figure out if a child can participate. So don't feel afraid if you have to call somebody or ask a question. We all have to do it.
That's great advice. Thank you.
Clinical trials and research studies in genetics and for genetic conditions is advancing rapidly, and I really feel that it's our families who have helped that progress so far. Their advocacy through research and finding cures or treatments is really what is bringing about all these new therapies that are available for patients with genetic conditions. And it's a really exciting time. And I really hope all the families think about participating and consider it, and at least talk about the pros and cons with a healthcare provider.
Hi, this is Christy with Mountain States Regional Genetics Network. I'm going to take you through the clinicaltrials.gov site that Rebecca just shared with us and walk you through how you might look for a trial for your child's genetic condition. This is the homepage of the clinicaltrials.gov website, and this is the search box right here. If you know your child's condition or genetic disorder name, you can type it in the condition or disease box. For example, today we will use PKU or phenylketonuria as an example condition. Then you can hit search, and you will see at the top that 93 different studies come up for PKU. Obviously, this will be a lot to sort through. So you can use this sidebar to further filter your results. For instance, by checking the recruiting button, so knowing which ones are currently recruiting or possibly ones that are not yet recruiting but getting ready to recruit for. And then perhaps you have a child who's age birth through 17, and so you're looking specifically for that age range. You can sort on that as well. There's many other areas you can sort by, but these two will probably narrow it down for us. Let's see. So you can see now that that took our results from 93 to 11 studies, and these are the 11 below. Some not yet recruiting and a couple that are recruiting. So you can scroll down and see the names of these studies, and then you can actually click on the study if you'd like to get some more information. And please note that there's another page of those as well. So let's click on this 11th study here. So this is a study that gives you the title here at the top. It says it's recruiting, and it gives you an update as you scroll down of the description of the study design, some of the interventions and outcome measures, and then the eligibility criteria that Rebecca Littlejohn told us about, including the inclusion criteria and the exclusion criteria. As you scroll down further, you'll find contacts and locations. And this is where you go if you have questions about the particular study and you would like to find out more information. There's usually a phone number listed and a website. And you can also see what locations around the United States or even internationally worldwide are recruiting for this study. If you have questions about whether your child would qualify for this, as Rebecca said, reach out to your genetics professional, whether that be your geneticist, your genetic counselor, or your primary care physician, or call the contact on the clinical trial itself, and you can inquire that way. Hopefully this gives you an idea of how to get started with looking for clinical trials for your child or your an individual with a genetic condition, that loved one with a genetic condition. And if we can be of more assistance in helping you find a professional in your area to help you with this, you can reach out to Mountain States Regional Genetics Network at www.mountainstatesgenetics.org. That's mountainstatesgenetics.org. Thank you for joining us today.